Hey everyone, it is Nina and I am here to talk about the authority as a manifestor. So as a manifestor, we can have a couple different authorities. So you might have an emotional, you might be ego or will-centered authority, or you might be splenic. And so there are a couple of options here as a manifestor to have different strategies. So I'll definitely talk more a little bit about the emotional aspect because I am an emotional strategy, so that is what I can speak to. But just as a manifestor in general, we have these motor centers that are connected to our throat center. So it is this motor that is directly connected to our throat. It is sending the energy of those channels all the way up to our throat center in order to be expressed. So we are very, very powerful beings. And so when speaking about the authority aspect, if you're not familiar with what the authority is in human design, it's probably like one of the top things. So your strategy and your authority are one of the top things that you really just need to know about your chart. If you never learned anything else, like you would get by and like thrive just by following your strategy and authority. So with your authority, it is your internal guidance system. It is your intuition. It is that part of you that moves you in a way that is connected to your spirit, that is connected to your higher self, that knows the answers. And typically it is your body that is helping you guide that way. And so while I don't think or view human design as like this end all be all system, I'm so grateful for the human design system because it taught me how to come back to myself and to begin to listen to myself versus listening to external authorities that I would listen to, like, you know, bosses or parents or friends that I would put on pedestals, or I would listen to them and I would dismiss like what my body was telling me, or, you know, what intuitively felt right for me. And so this is why it's so incredibly important to listen to your strategy and your authority, or follow your strategy and authority, because it is going to be what brings you back to a place of independence and sovereignty within yourself. It is what will connect you deeper to like your deeper self that you are here to be in alignment with in order to live a life in alignment. So if things feel off or whatever, it typically means that, you know, you're not following your strategy or authority, because we have this anger that comes up as manifestors. Well, we're not informing we're making decisions because we're not emotionally clear about something, or because someone has tried to stop us and we're like, oh, I'm going to listen to them and I'm not going to listen to myself. So when you start to play around with your strategy and your authority, it may feel very foreign. You may feel like, wait, my body is like telling me this, or I'm getting, you know, my splenic intuitive hit in my body, and it's telling me this, but you have always learned how to push it to the side your entire life. Well, now you're starting to tap into that. You're starting to listen to it. You're starting to get curious about, oh, what is it that I want? What is it that is coming up intuitively for me to learn and trust? And so when you start to play around with your strategy and authority, it is basically learning how to trust yourself again. And I don't know that a lot of people really understand what that means. They think, oh yeah, I trust myself. And I think that there are so many layers to this, where so many people lack a deeper sense of self-trust because we have given our authority and our power away to so many external things. And it's layers. We're not necessarily aware of all of it at once. When we become aware of something, we can peel back that layer and then it reveals another layer. And it's just like how our entire lives, like the rest of our lives, we're going to be, you know, pulling back these layers. You know, we're human beings. We're going to be conditioned by things around us, but there are very, very deep layers that are conditioned at a very young age. And so as we get older and we use the human design system to help us expand our self-awareness, we start to see like, wow, I was giving my power away to this person, or I was not listening to my authority. And that is why I'm angry, or I'm feeling unsettled about this, or out of alignment, because I'm making these decisions based on what this other person says how it should be. And so as an emotional authority, you know, my whole life, it's like I've had to make decisions right off the bat, or I had a job offer that I had to make a decision in like a day. And for those really, really big decisions, especially as an emotional authority, you're like you need time. You need time to make these decisions, because you need to go through the highs and the lows, and you need to say, is this right for me? And you learn how to go through the highs and the lows to find that clarity at the end. And typically for me, what that feels like, and I've spoken about this in other videos, so I'm not going to go too deep into this because I would just want to talk about authority in general here, but with the emotional authorities, you know, your entire life you're like, oh, you have to make this decision, and you're standing there and you're like, oh, and it's like you learn how to become almost like a generator, or, you know, someone with a spleen, a defined spleen, to make those like splenic decisions right off the bat. And you're, in a way, you're like disrespecting and dishonoring yourself, because there's so much emotional depth and wisdom when you actually start to follow your authority as a defined emotional being. And when I say that is because when we go through, especially these bigger decisions in our lives, we experience this high of it and we're like, yeah, this is so great, this is amazing, like I'm so excited to go. And then maybe like a week later you're like, oh shit, maybe this is not such a bad idea and this is why it's so bad. And then you like get down in the dumps about it and you're like, I made the worst decision ever, like why did I do this? And then like, you know, maybe a week or two later you're like, okay, like I've seen the pros and the cons and I've actually felt it out as if it has already happened, so I can have experienced the highs and I've experienced the lows, and from there I can gather deep wisdom about what is the correct decision for me. And then you feel, I don't want to call it like this neutral clarity, it's just more of like, for me personally, I feel it in my body as like, okay, this is it, I just know. And so when you learn how to listen to yourself, as you know, 50% of the population is an emotional authority, you think about it, we're constantly making decisions like this all the time because we have to, you know, it's weird because we have to learn how to wait. And for someone as an emotional authority, I'm like, I have to wait, like especially as a manifestor, when you just want to go and you just want to, you know, go do things and act on something. This is where you develop deep wisdom within your body. This is where you can learn how to develop deep trust within your body. And then for others, for, you know, our splenic manifestors, you know, you're going to be here to get those intuitive hits in your body, and you might feel it in a certain body part. It might just be like this inner knowing that you get, and you learn how to trust that, and you learn how to follow that, even though it goes against what everyone else around you is saying. And that is why this deconditioning process can feel or seem like this total roller coaster, where you're like, oh my gosh, like everyone else, they're following the crowd and they're doing this or whatever, and you don't want to, you know, be the weird man out or whatever. But it's like, as soon as you start following your authority and listening to it, the right people will come into your life and align with you. And sometimes that means a complete crumpling of everything that is around you. And that can feel very destabilizing, very like scary and weird and uncomfortable, sometimes for longer periods of time. But this is where we're learning to come back to what goes on inside of us and what we can actually trust. And also with our ego, our will-centered manifestors, you know, you're here to speak and share like your willpower through your throat center. Like it's incredible. And so like talking things out and then being able to hear like, oh, this willpower in my voice, or this feels high or low, or this sounds high or low, or you can hear that willpower in your voice. So sometimes talking out is going to be really, really helpful for you in order to really know, you know, what you have that energy or that urge to go do, or how to make decisions. And so every single authority is going to be a little bit different. Again, I can only really speak to the emotional authority because that's my personal experience. But it's incredibly important because, again, it's the only thing you really need to know about your human design. You don't need to know about your channels. You don't need to know about your digestion. You don't need to know about any of that stuff. Like if you didn't know about if that even existed and you just followed your strategy and authority, your life would be like 99.9%, I'm going to say better, but just like in alignment for you. And it is our mind that is telling us like, no, this doesn't make sense, but that's because it's been so conditioned. It's been conditioned by, you know, our open heart center to want to people please. And so we go against what our body is telling us. We go against what our authority is telling us. And we're like, oh, I'm feeling pressure to go do this because I have an open root center, or like I'm feeling pressure to go and like push myself farther physically or mentally because I'm around a bunch of generators, and you don't know how to say no, even though you're feeling burnout or you've gotten that intuitive hit, like, no, it's time for me to stop. And so this is when you start to listen to your body and you start to really honor it, and you start to say, what is right for me? Knowing that you are here to have this singular individual experience as source in the specific body, and to revel in that and to enjoy that and to connect with that and develop this deep, intimate relationship with what is in alignment, what is correct for you, and listen to that voice and listen to your authority and what feels right for you. And then from that place, it's like you're so connected that from your heart space, you can share from a place of love, because you are so in alignment and so in love with yourself, because you respect and you honor what is going on within yourself, and you are actually listening to it and honoring it. And that is how you can have impact on the rest of the world and every single person around you, because you are so deeply connected to yourself and you're honoring that. And so I just wanted to add that part in, because people are like, oh yeah, just follow your strategy and authority. No one really understands what that means or why we really have to do it. And it's because this goes really, really deep, as a collective, we're kind of being forced to come back to ourselves. There's these energetic shifts happening, and Ra talks about 2027, whether that's true or not, we'll see, whatever we put our attention on, I feel like that's what we're going to manifest. That's what I believe we will see in our world. So if you choose to believe the world is ending in 2027, be my guest. You can look at it from that perspective. I just know for me personally, I'm feeling a lot of energetic shifts within myself and collectively as well. And I just feel like we're all being forced to come back to ourselves as individual sovereign beings, and using the human design strategy and authority is an amazing, incredible tool to be able to start to pay attention to and say, what is correct for me? So that is all I have to say about the authority with human design. As a manifestor specifically, we are such powerful beings, and when we are fully in alignment and in power within ourselves, and we're not giving our power to external authorities, this is how we are going to make changes in the world. This is how we are going to deeply impact the world. And it is one of our deepest fears as manifestors that we will not have that impact. And so the more that you become aligned with yourself, the more that you will see those shifts and changes and impact around you. So I'm curious if anyone has anything else to add to this, if I missed anything about strategy and authority, and what your experience has been, whether you're emotional or splenic or ego. I obviously don't have the experience with the two other authorities, but I would love to hear what everyone's experience is and how your life has changed, whether it was hard at first or it's easier, or life is just so much better because you are following your authority and you're starting to listen to yourself and the type of impact that you have on other people. I would love to hear that. So leave a comment below, and I will get back to you, and it will be so helpful for anyone else watching this video and reading the comments as well, as we are all on our own journey back home. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.